Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Freaky Force 9 here, and today we're going to be talking about something that has been plaguing the whole YouTube community by storm for the last couple weeks. Now, before I continue with what I'm about to talk about, there was an update that was made earlier today, literally about 20 plus hours ago. Um, at least around 20 hours ago. It was earlier this morning where um, the FTC made an update in regards to the concerns about COPPA. And so we will be discussing that. So what I'm going to do is um, I'm going to be talking about what COPPA is, the rule of COPPA, the backstory to COPPA, as well as uh, how the FTC viewed certain things that would revolve around uh, the rule, like methods of trying to figure out is what exactly is or is not compatible with the COPPA law. Okay, and then after that we will discuss the update. Okay, so me reading the update will be the first time I ever read it. I haven't read it before. I haven't read it as of right now. I have yet to read it. So I will read it myself and we will see what happens. But before we begin with all this, let's get to the backstory of COPPA. And I have the text that was protected, that is under the Protecting Children's Privacy under COPPA, a survey on compliance. This was a staff report that was made by the FTC in April 2002, and it says that on the bottom of the page. The very first thing, and that will be the first thing you see. So before we get into it, what exactly is COPPA? Well, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act and Rule, as this paragraph says, I'm going to read it completely to you. Congress enacted the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act in October 1998. This act directed the Commission to set forth limited rules governing the online collection of personal information from children 12 and under. The Commission accordingly promulgated the Children's Online Privacy Protection Rule, which went into effect April 21st, 2000. The Act and Rule will be referenced interchangeably as COPPA. So, basically speaking, this protects this ruling actually governs rules that revolve around any personal information regarding children that are 12 years or younger. So, with that said, here are the requirements, and I'm going to read this word for word just as I did with the description of it. COPPA requirements. COPPA applies to operators of commercial websites directed to children 12 and under that collect or maintain personal information, as well as other websites that have actual knowledge that they are collecting or maintaining personal information from a child 12 and under. Principally, COPPA requires website operators to post a privacy policy on the website. Now, I'll just try to explain in the best of detail without having to read the thing. So, in this case, what they wanted was to have it to where websites would need to put a privacy policy on the home page, on the very first page, like when you click on, let's say, YouTube.com, the very page that shows up, scroll all the way down, and it should have a privacy policy put in, so that way it shows that. So on top of that, it should be on that, as well as any other area where personal information is collected. And I did read that bit from up there, but what I said before. I said with words because I'm looking at the screen as I said it. But in other words, but in any case, um, um, a website needs to have a privacy policy in place. Any website, of course, that is deemed uh, appealing to children, that is basically that basically would most likely have 12 and under on the website. It has to have a privacy policy in place for people to read. So also it says provide notice directly to parents. So in this case, of course, in in certain certain circumstances, which may I can't find my words. In certain circumstances, websites would have to uh, find a way to talk to a parent. I guess they could say a parent and or a guardian. I guess because sometimes uh, parents something might have happened to both parents and they need a guardian to deal with this issue. But in this case, it needs to send a direct notice to a parent of the site's information practices and give parents the opportunity to opt out on behalf of their child. So basically, from the very beginning, parents have the option of telling their website, no, my kid will not be involved in this, period. But they do have the option of letting their kid do so. But in order for them to do that, the website, as it says on the next one, needs to get parental consent. In other words, on one hand, parents have to give them consent for them to use their child's their personal information in some way, shape, in any way, depending on how they plan on doing it. Parents can say yes if they want to, but at the same time, they have the option of backing out because that's what the law requires. That's what the law says. Parents have the option of saying no straight out, saying yes, but then later saying no if they want to. That's what this is saying. Of course, though, the other downside is, the only downside to that is parents, of course, need to show that they are the parent to the child, because sometimes you never know what kind of scam artists there are out there that might somehow benefit from this. I don't know how, because I'm not a scam artist. I don't know the ways of a scammer, because I never have been a scammer in my life, so I don't know how that works, but whatever. Again, and that's what it says the next time. Allow parents to review personal information collected from their children. Again, parents need to show that they are the parents of the child. Okay? Allow parents to revoke their consent and delete information collected from their children at the parent's request. So like I just said, parents have the option of saying no straight out or saying yes, but they can say no later on if they feel like too much information is collected in regards to the child. Establish and maintain responsible or reasonable procedures to protect the confidentiality, security, and integrity of children's personal information. Not condition a child's participation in certain activities on collection of more personal information than is reasonably necessary. I think that's somewhat self-explanatory. I don't really know how to describe it if some people don't know how to say it, but yeah, that's how it is. So that is the description and the requirements of the COPPA law. Now the big question is, what? Now there's another thing to this as well. After the law was made, there were two. I don't know if it was after the law was made, because the problem is on this booklet here, on this report, there is nothing saying when exactly the first of the two surveys took place. The first survey took place in 1998, so it had to have happened. So it could have happened beforehand, before they made the law to be signed, or it could have happened sometime after it. But it did happen in 1998. Now, so in this regard, we're gonna scroll all the way down, because if you guys wanted to read all the data they found in the 1998 and the 2001 surveys, that is entirely up to you guys. I will leave the link to this in the description down below. The comparison of survey data, sites collecting personal information according to the two surveys. In any way, shape, or form, as if they are collecting personal information. If any of the sites that were surveyed collected any information in any way, shape, or form, then that number would be on the list. So in this case, for the 1998 survey, the results showed that 74% of the sites that collected personal information collected a name, 49% collected postal address, 24% collected a phone number, 6% collected a fax number, and 1% collected a social security number. This survey reported a substantial decrease in the number of sites that collected a home postal address, telephone number, or name as compared to the 1998 survey. Now, nearly all the sites in the survey that were surveyed the second time in April 2001, which was 1 year after the effective date, 93 of 104, 89% of the sites that were surveyed had privacy policies, while only 24% of the children's sites sites surveyed in 1998 had a privacy policy. In addition, 47%, which is based out of 104 sites, by the way, 47% of the survey provided a way for parents to consent or give permission for information collection from their child. It's only 3% of the sites, which in this case is out of 92 sites, with privacy policy, of the sites with privacy policies stating that they collected personal information, or 64% of the 104 total sites that collected personal information discussed parental notice or consent in their privacy policies. By comparison, in the 1998 survey, less than 10% of the sites either notified parents of their information practices or gave parents the option to ask that their child's personal information be deleted or not used in the future. Other differences in the survey methodologies caution against placing great weight on these changes. In each case, the data appeared to reflect less collection of personal information from children and improvement in sites notice and consent practices. That is basically what was said in regards to the finalizations of the 1998 and 2001 surveys. That was what was found. So they had their conclusions, but again, if you guys wanted to watch that is all on you. I will put a link to this report in the description down below for you guys to read it. Then they have their endnotes, but we're going to skip all that and go to the appendix. So the one we're looking at is the one that basically describes how a website is seemingly aimed at kids. So let's listen. So listen and we explain this. The survey involves the identification of websites that are primarily directed to children 12 and under. We on the SURF team appreciate your willingness to help with this project. If at any time you have a question as you participate in the SURF, please don't hesitate to ask one of us. The instructions below take you through the survey question by question. Before you begin to answer the questions, though, you will be asked to fill out the top section, surface site information. Please fill out this information legibly and completely. So the first question, the first way to figure it out. Determine whether a site is primarily directed to children 12 and under. A website that is primarily directed at children should have at least 2 of 3 factors present: subject matter, presentation, interactivity. If a site is directed to a mixed audience, adults and children, but has a designated children's area that is primarily directed to children 12 and under within the same URL, you should examine the children's area to determine whether the site is primarily directed to children 12 and under. This is the one problem with this. First off, this should not be on YouTube itself. As many people have known, YouTube has a kids area, so to speak. As I said, it says a children's area. And the children's area in the case of YouTube is, of course, YouTube Kids. And I actually, earlier today, just tried to find YouTube Kids. I found it, and I'm actually gonna look it up right now, so that way you guys know that I am completely looking it up. Hold on 1 second here. Oh, I'm going a bit crazy. So just look along with me. So if you look up YouTube Kids on the Google website, or Bing, whatever, but in this case I'm using Google because in my book Google is the better option. But that's on me because I've grown up with Google more than I did Bing or Yahoo search or whatever. Google was my main search engine. But getting back to topic, the very first thing that you will see is YouTube Kids, an app made just for kids. That tells you something there. So if we went to that website, and I'm going on there now, and you can see that I'm seemingly on the site. It's going to give you it's going to give you the information about it. It'll give you safe experience, parent resources, family-friendly videos, fun on every screen, parent partners, and then of course there's a description. But then there's a little button, a blue button on the top right of this corner of the screen. Click Watch Now, and it'll say get it on Google Play, download on the App Store, or watch on web. If you clicked on Watch on Web, it will take you to the site youtubekids.com. That is the children's area of the situation. So therefore, already right off the bat, if you think about it right, YouTube is partly responsible for what happened, because this whole thing stemmed from YouTube in regards to personal information. They got in trouble for how they handled it, and they had to pay $170 million to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, because of that. And because of that, YouTube has actually thrown us under the bus when it mentioned content creators, at least so I recall correctly from some people whose videos I did watch before this. So some of the information I've had reverts off of that. So with that said, so already we have YouTube Kids. That is the children's area of the website if they actually looked it up on Google. But they probably think that Google is, that YouTube and YouTube Kids are probably 2 different sites. We'll see what happens. There's the page, there's the thing that they did this morning. But like I said, we're not going to show that yet. But I will show you some other things here in a little bit. So many times, so this is the second paragraph of this thing. Many times you should be able to tell from the homepage whether the site is primarily directed to children. I don't need to say what the homepage is. It's very obvious what it is. But you may need to view other pages, indexes, or a sitemap if one is provided. Okay? So that makes sense. But now let's take a look at the 3 things that they think requires that basically any of the 3 things that require a website to be considered child, you know, kid friendly, so to speak, or something that would appeal to children. Okay, so subject matter that is appealing to children, as it, for example, it gives us a lot of stuff in parentheses: kids jokes, music, kids games, video computer games, children's TV shows or stars, cartoon characters, sports, stories, toys, children's books, fantasy, children's arts and crafts, pets, products primarily purchased or consumed by kids, like snack food or cereal. I have Everybody has made the same argument against that particular area. That was what really, this whole area, the whole bottom of this page, B1, is what set everybody off. Let me explain why, in case you have somehow not seen anybody else's content. For starters, majority of the stuff on the subject matter panel, on the subject matter, is something that kids, teens, and adults enjoy. And that's the problem with this. It's a bit too vague with its descriptions. So let's just run it down a little bit. Kids' jokes, okay. Kids love to tell jokes. Kids love to hear jokes. And sometimes we'll say kid-friendly jokes that even the tiniest of kids will probably get a little chuckle out of. Alright? But there are some teens and adults that may or may not like them, but not as much as kids do because they're aimed at kids, of course. Alright, so music. Music, well, there are some kids' music. Of course there are. But there are other pieces of music that are not for kids to listen to. They are for teens to listen to, and teens and adults to listen to, and there are other things that adults that I believe should only be listened to by adults. Because it makes sense, alright? Kids' games. So I'm guessing in this way, it's one of two ways. Either one, they're thinking of like those games that kids play off the computer and video games, which is why they put it in a separate thing. But games, I'm guessing they're thinking like games that are like games where it involves interactivity, which is another one of the things they brought up there. But what I mean is like games like Duck Duck Goose, Ring Around the Rosie, let's see, what else was I thinking of earlier? London Bridge is falling down. On top of that, you also got like other like board games that are, or just straight up non-video games that are, non-video games that are appealing to children, like Chutes and Ladders, checkers, I guess, because it's actually very easy to play, unlike checkers or chess. Things of that nature that would be like that. I can somewhat understand it, but again, there are teens and adults that actually play this. Hashtag chess, because that to some people is a gentleman's game, and it kind of shows that it is something adults would normally play, and not so many young kids would play. The younger they are, the less likely they are playing it, because nowadays we live in a world where kids revolve around, electronics. Well, we started getting into the the digital age as we 90s kids were getting older. It started with the internet. Well, actually, no. It started with the video games, like arcade games and all that shit. Then it went to the internet to be in our home stuff. No, wait. Actually, TVs. No, wait. It's, I'm getting myself confused. Basically, it's arcade games, then TV shows, then video games, etc., with the whole, how the internet, electronics, and all that shit works. In other words, when I was a kid, we didn't have, online multiplayer. That actually was starting out when I was getting younger. The whole internet thing started out on the PS2, on the PlayStation 2, Xbox, the original Xbox days. That was starting to gain footing, as far as online gaming went, but 360 and PlayStation 3 came around, and I guess you could say it somewhat perfected it. There are certain games on all three, PS2, PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One, where some of the internet connections don't really hold up too well. But that's beside the point. Video and computer games. Okay, so I have right here. See, you've probably seen a little bit of it. Right here in this hand, I have 4 video games to support what I'm about to say. So, to me, there are 4 types of video games. You have 2 different versions of each. Well, actually, I should say 5. In my book, you have 5 different ratings for video games, even though there are actually 5. So I guess we'll go with 6. For me, for kids 12 and under, they should only be playing games that are EC for early childhood rated games, E for everyone, and T for teen rated. Basically saying, EC for early childhood rated games are of course centered for that are they are used they are to be played with they are to be played by kids who are at least 3 years old, and no content of any kind will be bad for the child. E for everyone. This is where it's somewhat isn't as where it's somewhat still rated E, but it's not educational, so they still put it on there. And then there are E-rated games where they give a description as to why it's rated E for everyone. Teen rated, of course, actually for E-rated games, those are aimed at children 6 and older. There was one that actually came out almost 10 years after the E-rated, the teen rated, and the E-rated, and the later 3 that we're going to discuss here in a bit were released. In 2005, with the release of, I believe it was a Donkey Kong video game for the Nintendo GameCube, that game was given an E10 rating because I guess they didn't see it as an E-rated game, but yet they didn't think it was bad enough for a teen-rated game, so they brought out an E10 rated game, which is what some of the freaking Legend of Zelda shit on the Nintendo 64 should have been, as well as a couple of other things, if you ask me, but what do I know? So, with that, those games are, of course, centered, as the rating itself implies, it is centered around children that are 10 years and younger. Teen-rated games are for teenagers, of course, because that's why it says T for teen, aimed at individuals individuals that are 13 and older. M-rated games are situated for people who are 17 years and older, and then you got AO for adults only, which are centered for anyone 18 and older. Now the difference between the thing is here, adults only rated games are never sold in public. Let's just say they are the equivalent to the X-rated movies that have come out many years that have come out and not been given a proper rating, instead of given the X rating. See, I did that. Anyway, so with that being said, it will not be sold publicly. It will not be sold in retail stores. Probably wouldn't be sold in online stores. You probably would have to look very hard to find these AO adult-only games. You'd have to look very hard at where they could be at. But we're not going to discuss that. We're going to look at games like some games that I know kids would be wanting to play. So the first thing I was thinking of were games that were rated E for everyone, but did not have a description to say why it was rated E for everyone. And the best example I have, because I have a family member that is into this show, a young family member that is into this show, because of that I bought this game for him for his birthday. So no, it's not technically mine, and I'm not going to do any streams on it, because I'm not going to stream kid-friendly games in any way, because this is the type of game that I would just play with my niece and nephew in their spare time if they ever wanted to play with it, and I'm here with them. So what is the first game I'm talking about? Well, it's pretty much one of, if not the most popular shows of the past year or two or whatever. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Paw Patrol on a Roll. This game, as you can tell, is rated E for everyone. If you look at the back, it will say nothing as to why it was rated E for everyone. This is very interesting. if that is the case, why isn't this game rated EC for early childhood? You know, I can understand football because it's not really educational. This somewhat, I guess this is somewhat educational. I mean, it teaches you about teamwork and how to solve problems on how to go from point A to point B or something. But I really don't see how this game is not really an EC rated game. I guess they just dropped it. I guess I don't know. So that's this, and we'll get to that one in a little bit again. The second one is a game that is rated E for everyone, but has any descriptions that are in the game that is to why they are not rated. This is literally the best example I could find. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. This game came out in 2003, long before today's kids were ever born, for PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube. I don't know about PC. I'm not 100% sure about that, but basically stating it did come out in 2003 on the systems that I did mention, and I know that confirmed fact. This game, as you can see in the back, is rated E for everyone due to comic mischief and cartoon violence. Mild cartoon violence, my apologies there. But this is appealing to children because, of course, SpongeBob is still a cartoon character, whereas Paw Patrol would be the same way, but it's 3D animated cartoon characters. And the thing is, this show is educational. This show is more adult oriented, but the game actually tries to shy away from adult oriented humor, even though they probably added in a little thing or two if they wanted to. But yeah, this game is child friendly, but it does have its reasons as to why it was given an E rating. Because that was back when the EC rating was not too much, but it was making its rounds here and there, but not as often as it used to. Now, it doesn't do it as often as it used to nowadays. But now, let's go into the two ratings where you should not, where they are appealing to children because it looks good to them, but they should not be able to play it. Medieval. This is a teen-rated game. And as you can see from the back, it is rated T for teen due to violence and blood and gore, even though I said it backwards. Blood and gore and violence. Although in my book it should say cartoon violence, but that's just me. In any case, this game, the only reason why this game is appealing is because, well, first off, look at the box art. Kids would probably be into that one. But on top of that, the graphics of the game do look very cartoony. And that was the point of the game, to look at like cartoony, but at the same time, it did have its reasons why it was rated T for teen. So, kids should not be playing. I mean, don't get me wrong, some kids could probably handle the craziness that is in this game, but we'll see how they do that. My nephew plays this game, so yeah, that's good on him, I guess. He enjoys it. And then for the big one, and for mature rated games. These are games that I honestly don't know why the parents are buckling down on their kids, telling them you can play E-rated games, E10 rated games, and maybe T for teen games, but you are not going anywhere near mature games until you are that age of 17 or an adult, whatever. Either way, you cannot play it, period, until then. But here is the biggest example. What is the one game that kids today play that makes them really annoying? Some of you might be thinking Call of Duty, Battlefield, but what I was thinking was more along the lines of, well, Grand Theft Auto. I can't tell you how many times I've seen kids play this game, and it's very annoying sometimes when I hear their crazy, whiny, annoying voices. But, you know, they're kids. That's how they are. They tend to act like that. I should know I've got niece and nephew that do that. In any case, this game, of course, is rated for mature. And, well, it gives you a very big description as to why. And I'll read it out to you. It's rated for mature due to blood and gore, intense violence, strong language, strong sexual content, and use of drugs. I think there are a few Grand Theft Auto games out there that do rely on mature humor, but this is not one of those games. So, with all that said, those games are proving. I proved that those games can be appealing to children because of the way they look and not what they say or do in the game. But they are appealing to children for that very reason, and that's why they play these games if they don't watch them. Okay? So, that's a big problem there. And I've wasted too much time talking about video games. I'm a video gamer. That's what I do. Okay? So, let's take a look at the next one. Children's TV shows or stars. This one, I don't really like too much. I mean, cartoon shows, it's going back to Paw Patrol and SpongeBob a little bit. When it comes to stars, what do they mean by stars? Like, are they talking about child actors or actors that starred in TV shows? I'm thinking more it's like maybe both, but it really wouldn't make no sense to me because they're pretty vague about it in this situation. So I'm guessing like TV shows like the two that I just mentioned, as well as all the shows that are on Nickelodeon, Nick Jr., Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, Disney XD, and Disney Junior. All those shows would have all been appealing to children. But there are other cartoons out there that are not for kids, but yet they appeal to them just because of the cartoon and characters. I could give you a handful of them right now, so I'll give you just 5. South Park, American Dad, Bob's Burgers, Family Guy, basically anything Trey Parker, Matt Stone, anything Seth MacFarlane, anything Matt Groening, I think I pronounced his last name correctly, and as well as shows like Beavis and Butthead that are really crazy. Those shows are honestly for adults because kids have a lot of imagination, and they probably wouldn't be able to handle the imagination too well in that one. But now let's go back into things here. Cartoon characters. Again, Paw Patrol, SpongeBob, among other things. Enough said. Sports, everybody, again, I won't say everybody. There are certain kids, certain teens, and certain adults that love sports regardless of which sport it is. They all love it. That's how it is. End of story. Nothing to say there. Stories. I'll be talking about that in a minute. Toys. Toy channels at this point would have been screwed on the grounds that they were talking about toys. Namely, toy review channels. Or toy review videos on channels that don't delve too much into just toy reviews. They would be taken down just as quickly just because they have a toy on their videos. Children's books. Now, I said I'll get back to stories in a second. Here's where I'm going to go back to it. What the hell is so different about a plain story and a children's book? There is a big difference. Stories could mean practically anything. It basically could mean things that not only just kids but teens and adults can enjoy as well. But they have a thing called children's books. That's gonna be fucked completely. Fantasy. What? I had to figure this out for a second. What do they mean by fantasy? Do they mean anything fantasy? Anything fantasy like fantasy movies, fantasy TV shows, fantasy books, fantasy whatever, fantasy video games, those type of things? Or do they mean fantasy like it's an imagination? Like, there's one channel that my nephew watches. He's into dinosaurs. But he watches a show that basically gives the imagination of dinosaurs because, they use the graphics to make the dinosaurs, which is really good work, by the way, on that channel. Can't remember the channel name, but you guys get what I'm saying there. Children's arts and crafts. This is a bit interesting because there are some teens and or adults out there that actually make videos based around doing children's arts and crafts, but that's because they want to make it fun for the children to get into what they're trying to make and try to have fun while they do it. Simple as that. Very, very simple. Pets. of course, that's self-explanatory. There are some people that love pets, and there are some people that hate pets, regardless of age group. Okay, regardless of the age group, some people love pets, some hate them. So here's how I see it. Pets should not be part of this damn thing, because pets are an optional part of everyday life, and kids, the only thing kids will do really are either go, oh my god, that's a cute dog, or they will go to their parents, go off on them, say, I want a doggy from seeing this video. I want a doggy just like that one. See? That's what I think the FTC was trying to get at. But the problem is, people love them, others hate them. Enough said. Products primarily purchased or consumed by kids like snack food or cereal. Do they not know that adults and teenagers also like things that kids eat? Teens and adults can sometimes still eat the things that they used to eat when they were kids because they loved it. Why would they stop now? I mean, let's be honest here. Everybody has their own favorite foods. They have their own different tastes and whatnot and what so forth. And you got people who love to eat meat as well as everything else. You got people who just love to just eat meat as little of everything else as possible. I'm actually that way right there. You got people who are vegetarians, and then you got people who are vegans. Those are basically the all differences that I can think of at the top of my head that basically revolve around food. So in my book, like I said before, a good amount of these things do not revolve around just kids. It can also revolve around teens and adults, young and old adults, just so you know. So that's the end of that. Let's go to the next one. Presentation. The very first thing is the one that basically tells you how far back and how not with the times this thing was, okay? This was from 1998, remember that, okay? Language of the website, such as language that is simple enough to be understandable to children 12 and under, short, colorful descriptions, slang and pop culture phrases, like, they give examples here. A kid's site may be identified by such language as kids only, fun, free stuff, whatever, cool, duh, games, ask your parents, etc. So, I'm guessing they're gonna go after the channels that not only look appealing to children, that look like children would get too into it, but I guess they're also looking at videos that have those words in the titles as well. That's my guess. I don't know. But, of course, remember, I haven't read the blog post from earlier today, so I will be reading that here in a little bit, because I'm almost done with this stuff. But here's the next one. Whether the website uses virtual content appealing to children, animated characters, bold and fast-moving graphics, or bright and vibrant colors. When I first seen this, before the update, the blog post that they came out with earlier today, I already had in my head the animators are going to be so screwed out of this one because of the simple fact that there are people out there that put their time, money, and effort to put out the animations that they put up on the website to this day. It cost them money, time, and effort to get to where they are today. As soon as I seen that, I was mad for them. I was absolutely pissed off for them, as if they weren't pissed enough already. So, there's that. Use of host characters. Often a character property used offline, on television, in movies or comics or books. So, without using the same examples I used earlier, we could say something like Marvel characters, DC characters, Capcom characters, Mortal Kombat characters, things of that nature. That's what they're thinking of, I guess. The age of the models portrayed on the website using children as models. YouTube would not be on that one because they don't really use children as models. If anything, it's just the ads that do so, if at all, okay? Only the ads use children in some way, regardless of whether they are real, regardless of whether they really did get involved in where they are at the moment or what they were playing with or whatever, in some way, shape, or form like that. or if they, or just in stills and pictures or whatever. YouTube does not do that. They have never done that whatsoever. While their advertising appearing on the website is directed to children under 13, that is what got YouTube into trouble. Because of that, YouTube had to pay $170 million to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, for breaking that rule. Because of that. Because at that point, YouTube was trying to make it, at some point this past year, YouTube was trying to make itself as kid-friendly as possible. Probably because some dumbass YouTuber probably went to a forest and made a video and showed something he wasn't really supposed to show for obvious reasons, is why YouTube has been buckling down on trying to be as kid-friendly as possible. And because of that, the FTC looked at YouTube itself, not their secondary website, which is YouTube Kids, but YouTube itself, and labeled it kid-friendly. Well, appealing to children. So there's that. Audio content appealing to children. Simple or popular tunes or songs. I already have a couple of songs in my head, but I'm not going to say them. Cartoon voices, childlike noises, and sound effects. That seems self-explanatory. I don't need to go into that one. And then, of course, we got interactivity. Whether the website hosts interactive, child-oriented activities and incentives. Now, YouTube does not do any of that, so we're not even going to... They do show the parentheses, what they mean by that. So that's actually the least vague thing that they've shown at this point. So YouTube does not go anywhere near that. So they actually have met 2 of the 3 criteria. The following information will help you deal with special situations that may arise. This is talking about non-commercial as well as foreign sites, but YouTube is a commercial site because it does have ads on it. So we'll skip this part right here. Question 2. If the site is one devoted to electronic games. So again, that it would not actually be YouTube because of the simple fact that it's not completely devoted to video games per se. So I guess it would still be no. Because in this case, say one that has game reviews, tips, cheats, game characters, or chat rooms for gamers to play games on any type of computer equipment and is of interest to children 12 and under, you should circle yes here. If yes, then go on to the next site. This survey is complete. If no, go to question 3. YouTube is not like that. Site, I would think more like IGN, GameSpot, Game Informer, or Game Man, those type of websites. Those would be the type, Cheat Code Central. Those type of websites I would consider that way. 3. This is the one that honestly would fit YouTube the most. If the site appears to be of primary interest to teens, but of interest to children 12 and under, you should circle yes here. These are sites that are aiming at children under age 18, but are not primarily directed to children 12 and under. Sites that are of primary interest to teens may use the word teen, use teenage models, or be focused on subject matter that is popular with teens, such as music, sexuality, dating, makeup, clothing, etc. That, honestly, right there, is the best way to describe YouTube as a site. That's the best way I could see that. And then it talks about reconciling your results, as well as the rules of the surfer, printing tips of what to do. Then it will show all that. General instructions regarding the survey form. We don't really need to get into that. I think we actually got through everything that needs to be talked about here. So before I read this blog post, before this blog post came out, everybody was furious. They were, I don't even know if pissed off is the best way to describe it. They were absolutely furious, and they were so furious they went to make videos real fast. No pun intended on the Fast and the Furious series, I promise. Even though it may seem intentional, it probably was. But either way, what I'm saying is, it pissed off so many people so badly that as soon as they found out about it, boom, they went right straight to their channel and they're like, let's make a video about this. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, on this is November 23rd, it is 11:01 p.m. So yesterday at 12:56 p.m., the Federal Trade Commission made out a blog post to YouTube content owners, or YouTube channel owners. There were 2 people that were involved in a talk on Twitter. I can't remember their names. I did see the video yesterday. Hold up. I'm actually going to see if I can find it real quick here, because I know I did watch that video. I actually would have to find it relatively quickly to stake my claim here. Hold on one second. Where did I find it? I know it's here somewhere. Where did I find it at? I know I found it somewhere. Hold on. I'm literally looking over here trying to figure it out, because I know I watched it at some point down the line. I know I watched it recently, like last night, if not at all. So, jeez, I thought it was actually in here. Where did it go? I could have swore I did watched it. Hold up, I'm gonna go to search real quick. I think it was like COPPA. I know it was in a Roblox video. Yeah, right here. Roblox YouTuber says it's some new COPPA rule. So, oh jeez, that's gonna be loud. Hold on one second. Here, I'm gonna plug in my headset real quick, just so we don't have to hear that music. We will do that here in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I want to give a quick shout out to two people. That was my last I was trying to get. The 2 people here that were involved in the situation.
Is that Dick?
So, the first thing here is
But the FTC, the people who basically you know your audience better than anyone, and you 100% know who you are making your video.
In case you guys are wondering who that is a channel called Chloe Games. This was the video I was watching last night. I'm actually in the process of trying to find the 2 people that she mentioned in her video. Roblox YouTuber saves us a new COPPA rule. I'm trying to look for the 2 names there, so that way we understand what we're looking for
even
here.
YouTube.
So, actually, I think I should look for a better thing there. Actually, so the first thing I want to say is thank you to Prinkcraft, because he was actually the one that got the FTC's attention on the matter. And the question is, whose attention did he get? Well, he got the attention of Noah J. Phillips. He was like one of the, I can't remember exactly what position he had, but the second man had, but the second gentleman had some position on the FTC. It basically made him a big deal. So here we are right now. Yesterday, they made a blog post to discuss the issues the YouTube channel owners had with what was being said with COPPA. So I'm gonna read it to you, everything that is being said here. Okay, I'm actually gonna okay, hold on. I'm actually gonna hold the camera like this, so that way you guys can see what I read, okay? Okay, so, under COPPA, Okay, hold on. I'm actually gonna turn my eye on. So you know what? I'm actually gonna take my hat and glasses off, so that way you guys don't have to worry about that. So let's read. Let's read what this says. Okay. Under COPPA, how do I know that if my channel is directed toward children? Since the FTC and New York Attorney General announced their September 2019 settlement with YouTube for violations of the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act rule, we've heard that question from channel owners, sometimes called content creators. If you're a channel owner who shares controlled, I can't really see too well. I apologize because I want you guys to know that I am looking at the screen. Okay. If you're a channel owner who shares content, I was on the right line. I'm getting myself all kinds of confused. My apologies. If you're a channel owner who shares content on user-generated platforms like YouTube, read on for FTC staff guidance about the applicability of the COPPA rule and how those covered by the rule can comply with its requirements. The FTC action against YouTube and Google. The lawsuit against YouTube and Google alleged that the companies illegally collected personal information from children in violation of COPPA. According to the complaint, the companies collected that information from viewers of child-directed YouTube channels in the form of persistent identifiers that track users across the internet, but didn't notify parents and get their consent. To settle the case, YouTube and Google agreed to create a mechanism so that channel owners can designate when the videos they upload to YouTube are, to use the words of COPPA, directed to children. I will actually look at that here after we're done talking about this. The purpose of this requirement is to make sure that both YouTube and channel owners are in compliance with the law. So, hold on. I'm going to actually open that link in a new tab and see if... Okay, actually, no. I actually would have to look that up myself, apparently. So, hold on just a second. I actually try to exit that out. The purpose of this requirement is to make sure that both YouTube and channel owners are complying with the law. A COPPA recap. That provision of the settlement has raised questions among content creators about how to determine if what they upload to YouTube or other platforms is directed to children. The answer requires a brief summary of some key COPPA provisions. Passed by Congress in 1998, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act is a federal law that protects the privacy of children under 13. COPPA's foundational principle is one that most people can agree on. Parents, not kids, companies, platforms, or content creators should be in control when it comes to information collected from children online. That is actually true. I think we all could actually agree on that. The FTC enforces the law through the COPPA rule. In general, COPPA requires operators of commercial websites and online services that are directed at children, more about that in a minute, to provide note. It actually says that. It actually says in a minute. It actually says that. I don't know if you guys can actually see it, but it actually does say that right there. To provide notice and obtain verifiable parental consent before they collect personal information from kids under 13. The COPPA rule defines personal information to include obvious things like a child's first and last name or home address, but that's not all. So it's one of those to include things like, but not limited to. Under COPPA, personal information also covers what are called persistent identifiers, behind-the-scenes code that recognizes a user over time and across different sites or online services. That could be an IP address or a cookie when it's used to serve targeted ads. Keep in mind that an operator also might be collecting personal information through an open comment field on its site or service that allows a user under 13 to make personal information publicly available. For example, think of a comment like this on a child-directed site. My name is Mary Jones from Springfield. I love this video. Okay. Okay, that's true. Okay, I see where they're saying that because they're saying the person's name and where they live, but not exactly to a T, because there are a number of places that are named that have the name Springfield in the States. I can name a couple, really. I really could if I wanted to, but I'm not going to at all. No, 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 no. How COPPA applies to channel owners. So, how does COPPA apply to channel owners who upload their content to YouTube or other third-party platform? COPPA applies in the same way it would if the channel owner had its own website or app. If a channel owner uploads content to a platform like YouTube, the channel might meet the definition of a website or online service covered by COPPA, depending on the nature of the content and the information collected. If the content is directed to children and if the channel owner or someone on its behalf, for example, as an ad network, collects personal information from viewers of that content, for example, through a persistent identifier that tracks the user to serve in an interest-based ads, the channel is covered by COPPA. Once COPPA applies, the operator must provide notice, obtain verifiable parental consent, and meet COPPA's other requirements. And if you keep saying example, your voice is going to be in the video. Once COPPA applies, the operator must provide notice, obtain verifiable... Wait, did I just say that? I think I did. For information on how to comply with COPPA, please visit FTC's COPPA page for our 6-step compliance plan for your business. Okay. How channel owners can determine if their content is directed to children. Under COPPA, there is no one-size-fits-all answer about what makes a site directed to children, but we can offer some guidance. To be clear, your content isn't considered directed to children just because some children may see it. Probably some damn cats.
No,
But
that was me shutting the door.
okay.
Work went down tonight.
Okay. Well, I don't really care because we're trying to do a video, not talk about football-related things, I guess. Anyway, however, if your intended audience is kids under 13, you are covered by COPPA and have to honor the rules requirements. The rules set out additional factors the FTC will consider in determining whether your content is child-directed. The subject matter, visual content, and so again, it's going back to that. The use of animated characters or child-oriented activities and incentives, the kind of music or other audio content, the age of models, the presence of child celebrities or celebrities who appeal to children, language or other characteristics of the site, whether advertising that promotes or appears on the site is directed to children, and competent and reliable empirical evidence about the age of the audience. So in other words, so basically that last bit is saying if they feel like you are, so basically what they're saying there is like, that basically everything you're showing is around, okay, actually, I don't really know how to describe that. I'm crazy at some points. There's some things I understand, some things I don't. We're all human. That happens to us. The determination of whether content is child-directed will be clearer in some contexts than in others. But we can share some general rules of thumb. First, unless you're affirmatively targeting kids, there are many subject matter categories where you don't have to worry about COPPA. For example, if your videos are traditionally about adult activities like employment, finances, politics, home ownership, home improvement, or travel, you're probably not covered unless your content is geared towards kids. The same would be true for videos aimed at high school and college students. On the other hand, if your content includes traditional children's pastimes or activities, it may be child-directed. For example, the FTC recently determined that an online dress-up game was child-directed. Well, it depends on what the game looked like, you know. It really depends on that. Because sometimes there are some adult games that involve around dress-up. Yeah, I don't know why my eyes just went like... Continuing on. I look like Paul Bearer doing that. Anyway, continuing on. Second, just because your video has bright colors or animated characters doesn't mean you're automatically covered by COPPA. While many animated shows are directed to kids, the FTC recognizes that can be animated programming that appeals to everyone. So they're actually trying to save whatever they can with animators. Like I said before this came out, everybody was pissed off, especially those that knew they were screwed out of luck. And to this day, it seems like they're still going to be screwed. But animators might be able to rejoice, as they might not be able to. They might actually not at all be under COPPA law. We'll see. Third, the complaint in the YouTube case offers some examples of channels the FTC considered to be directed to children. For example, many content creators explicitly stated in the About section of their YouTube channel that their intended audience was children under 13. Other channels made similar statements in communications with YouTube. In addition, many other channels featured popular animated children's programs or showed kids playing with toys or participating in other child-oriented activities. Some of the channel owners also enabled settings that made their content appear when users searched for the names of popular toys or animated characters. Want to see the FTC's analysis in context? Read pages 10 to 14 of the YouTube complaint. Finally, if you have applied the factors listed in the COPPA rule and still wonder if your content is directed to children, it might help to consider how others view your content and put in content similar to yours. Has your channel been reviewed on sites that evaluate content for kids? Is your channel or channels like yours mentioned in blogs for parents of young children or media articles about child-directed content? Have you surveyed your users, or is there other empirical evidence about the age of your audience? One of the possible penalties for violating COPPA. The rule allows for civil penalties of up to $42,530 per violation, so it is confirmed how much you're going to get sued if you break the rule. But the FTC considers a number of factors in determining the appropriate amount, including a company's financial condition and the impact a penalty could have on its ability to stay in business. While Google and YouTube paid $170 million in another COPPA case settled this year, the operator paid a total civil penalty of $35,000. But even then, there are so many people that what they're saying is there are people, so while they do lower their prices, there are people that won't be able to do anything with the $45,000 fine. There are people that would, if this was a business and YouTube creators were their own business, probably a good majority of those people would be out of business, so to speak. So let's compare it, since they want to do it like this, let's compare YouTube channels to a business. I know for a damn fact, there are YouTube channels out there that don't have 42,000, 530 or 350, I don't have short-term memory loss, I just can't remember it right at the top of my head with all that's going on in my mind right now after reading this. It's still not done yet, actually. We still got some of that left to talk about. With that said, if we were to compare YouTube content creators to a business of any type of content creator on any type of channel on this as a business, well, basically put, a number of YouTube channels would be out of business. Most, if not all of them. Because there are people out there that do make money, but they don't make enough to actually, hold enough to say, okay, I might, if this is the case, I might be sued for $45,000, but that's okay, I'll be able to cover it. They won't, because this literally just became a thing a couple of weeks ago when it was shown that the FTC now officially saying that content creators on YouTube are just as liable as the website or the people behind the website itself. That is not, oh my god, I hate when people do that. Jesus Christ. So the question is that the FTC taking another look at the COPPA rule? Yes, the FTC is currently evaluating the rule in the light of rapid changes in technology. If you would like to comment on the effectiveness of the COPPA rule and whether changes are needed, the FTC has extended the comment deadline to December 9th, 2019. Okay, so they extended it for a couple weeks. So for a couple weeks, we have the option of commenting to them what is so wrong with the COPPA rule. We have a couple weeks to let our voices be heard. As much as it's nice to see that they did make as much as I like that they actually made something or said anything after what has been going on, it shows that they seemingly care about what we want, what we think about it. And I think, truthfully, I honestly believe YouTube should have it to where any channel that, see, here's how I would put it, okay? I would say anything that is on YouTube should not even be affected. Now, if it is on YouTube Kids, then those channels, if there are any channels that are also on YouTube Kids, those channels should be affected. Not everybody else. Because everybody else are obviously, if they're not on YouTube Kids, then they're obviously not for kids. Of course, right? Of course they aren't. However, I don't think, you see, the only problem I have with what I just said, the only downside of what I said is, again, the only problem is, well, they would be losing a number of things. I'm actually going to look up what YouTube made. Hold on a second. I need to use my left hand, not my right hand. So, with that being said, hold on. I'm sorry. I have literally like a bent right hand, a club right hand to hold my camera. I apologize for that. But in any case, going back over here, we're going to YouTube COPPA. We're going to look up YouTube COPPA. Hold on one second. YouTube. Okay, no I didn't. Okay, YouTube COPPA. YouTube COPPA. So I'm trying to find the right one I'm looking for here. Oh, I accidentally put the wrong thing about there. So let's see here. What was this announced? This was on the 20th, a few days ago. So here's how it says. This is from Vidic YouTube Certified. So I'm gonna finish up what I said, what the next one is gonna be about before we do anything. So there's that. Where can channel owners go for more information? A lot of the factors of the COPPA rule will help most channel owners determine if their content is directed to children. If you're still unsure about the COPPA applies to you, consider contacting an attorney or consulting with one of the COPPA Safe Harbor programs, self-regulatory groups that offer guidance on how operators can comply with the law. Visit the FTC's website for a list of currently approved Safe Harbor organizations. For more resources, visit the FTC's Children's Privacy page for our 6-step compliance plan for your business. Okay, so with that being said, so again, they obviously are saying it's for, they have been comparing channels to a business. But here was from a few days ago. COPPA, FTC, and YouTube channel, everything you need to know. This was from a few days ago. So I'm going to read this. This is from Vidic.com. This is written by Rob Wilson and YouTube News. So I'm going to read the article here real quick. And then I'm going to end off the video. After a bombshell announcement, YouTube is making creators responsible for telling their audience who their content is appropriate for. Find out more about COPPA, the FTC, and your YouTube channel. If you are a creator, you should be aware of the changes made by YouTube around COPPA. See all the other things you need to know about COPPA and kids. Hold on, I'm actually gonna go on YouTube itself, see if they actually say something to me, actually. Ah, fuck. Hold on. Gotta switch hands again. I apologize for the constantly of switching hands. But sometimes my mouse does not like to work with me when I'm using the wrong hand. Hold up a second. So if I were to upload something, wasn't there something that would, good. Hold up. So it actually does not say anything to me at all, period. So I guess I have to figure something out here. Shit. I have to try to find something. It could have. Oh wait, hold up. But anyway, I'm just gonna read what this site says. So if you're a creator, I already read that part. Under the law, websites are restricted from collecting personal information from users aged under 13. Now at this point you might be thinking, I make videos in the UK or elsewhere. Why does this affect me? Well, YouTube is a US company and anyone in the world can watch YouTube content, so it affects the privacy policy. So it affects that privacy policy and it affects you. As part of the settlement with the FTC, YouTube was given time to get their house in order to protect children in the future, and now those changes are in full effect. Essentially, if you're a video creator on YouTube, this is a brand new term that you have to get used to. Made for kids. YouTube is enforcing much stricter rules and placing the onus on you to communicate to your audience whether that content is appropriate for children. So we have settings on here. Go to the new Creator Studio on the left hand side. Okay, so I'm gonna do this right here as I listen in on it. So it says go to the new Creator Studio. So I'm guessing that would be YouTube Studio. Hold up. So I'm just gonna try to find shit. I can't really do anything there. So what I'm going to do is after the video I'm gonna do this. But anyway, then go to the channel section followed by the advanced settings tab. This is the new. Go to the new Creator Studio. Hold up. Gotta type again. Hold up a second here. YouTube. Creator Studio. Jesus. We're getting all kinds of messed up, man. What the hell? Don't actually say anything. The only thing I can see is YouTube. Wait. Hold up. Go to your channel. That just sent me back here? Yeah, I just did. Jesus. YouTube Studio, that's the only thing that's sending me there. Because I don't know anywhere else to. Jesus. Yada 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 yada. I can't really figure anything else out. I really don't know where to go right now because I can't really. Oh, I could just click that one instead of going through all the hard work of going through that. So there's that. Take that off. Take that off. And then go to settings, I think it said. Yeah. Channel settings. Advanced. So let's take a look at this. So they actually got a so they got a thing there. They got a thing there, so I'm gonna look at that as well. I'm just gonna look at that right now. Screw it. So it's like, so I just got it done. I'm sorry for all the long ass wait for me figuring how things are going, but here's how it is. Come in a moment. Consider this your master setting that affects all the content on your channel. The setting will affect all current channel videos on your channel and all future content on your channel. And this is not an opt-in choice. No matter where you are in the world as a video creator, you need to check this setting and determine whether or not your content is made for kids or not. As stated on the setting, I'm gonna put my stuff back on if I can. Jesus. Somehow I seem to have misplaced my damn glasses over here. What the hell? Oh wait. How the hell did I? Somehow I misplaced my glasses and I don't even know how I did that. But anyway, so here's what it's or not, as stated on the setting, regardless of your location, you're legally required to comply with the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act and all of the laws. Now, obviously, not all of your content may fall into one bucket, so you can adjust audience settings for videos on an individual basis by going to the Video Manager page and clicking Videos. Click on the edit button and go to Audience. On this screen, you'll simply be asked whether the video is checked or made for kids or not. Also, when you upload a video, you'll be asked this question, and depending on how you've answered it, on your channel settings, that default will be used, and you can change it if you wish. So, you can't dodge the question. It's going to be coming up on your channel settings and on individual videos. You must answer whether or not the content is made for kids. And if you're going to try and cheat the system and lie, YouTube has machine learning in place to try to detect whether or not your content is made for kids. So they have a penalty. For this. So I'm gonna read what they say. Determining if your so this is what YouTube did. Determining if your content is made for kids. Update. The FTC released more information to help YouTube creators decide if the content is made for kids or not. You can learn more on the FTC's blog. We just read about that, but here's what they originally stated. Regardless of your location, we require you to tell us whether or not your videos are made for kids. We are making these changes according to an agreement with the U.S. Federal Trade Commission and to help you comply with the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act and or other applicable laws. Failure to set your content appropriately may result in consequences on YouTube or have legal consequences under COPPA and other laws. We provide some guidance on what is considered made for kids below, but we cannot provide legal advice. If you are unsure whether your videos meet the standard, we suggest you seek legal counsel. According to the FTC's guidance on COPPA, a video is child-directed, which we call made for kids, if children are the primary audience based on the factors described below, and children are not the primary audience, but the video is still directed at children based on the factors below. When deciding whether or not your channel or video is made for kids, you should consider the various factors. Subject matter of the video, like educational content for preschoolers, whether children are your intended or actual audience for the video, whether the video includes child actors or models, whether the video includes characters, celebrities, or toys that appeal to children, including animated characters or cartoon figures, whether the language of the video is intended for children to understand, whether the video includes activities that appeal to children such as play acting, simple songs or games, or early education, whether the video includes songs, stories, or poems for children, any other information you may have to help determine your video's audience, like empirical evidence of the video's audience. Note, YouTube's analytics, YTA, is not designed to help determining if your content is child-directed. You should use the factors outlined by the FTC above to set your audience. How old is a kid? The age of a kid in the United States is defined as anyone under the age of 13. However, the age of a kid may be higher in other countries, so consider the factors described above as appropriate given how the kid is defined in applicable laws in your country, and consult legal counsel if you have additional questions. What if, this was a big question, what if my content is applicable to a wide audience but not kids specifically? As the creator, you know your content best. If you intended to reach your kids' audience, it's likely that your video is made for kids. If you're not sure about your audience, take a look at the features of your video. Does it have actors, characters, activities, games, songs, or stories that kids are particularly attracted to? And so your video may be directed to kids. The key is to balance all the COPPA specified factors that apply to this analysis. For example, the fact that a kid is featured in a video does not necessarily mean that the video is made for kids. You will have to look at all other attributes of the video, like the intended audience, whether the video uses language that is intended for kids to understand, and the subject matter of the video, a medical video versus a play video. For further information on whether content is kid-directed, see the FTC's guidance. You should also consider consulting a lawyer if you aren't sure whether your content should be designed as made for kids. In addition, creators outside of the United States will need to take into consideration additional obligations they may have under applicable laws when evaluating whether content is made for kids. Note, while the age of a kid in the United States is defined as anyone under the age of 13, the age of a kid is defined differently in different countries, so consider the factors described above as appropriate given how kid is defined in relevant laws, and consult legal counsel if you have additional questions. Note, as a creator, you know your videos and your audience best, and it is your legal responsibility to comply with COPPA and or other applicable laws and designate your content accurately. If you fail to categorize your content correctly, there may be consequences on YouTube. Additionally, there may be legal consequences under the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act or other applicable local laws. So, this was, I would say, interesting for me to read, actually, looking at this. And reading what we've read earlier, about an hour, 15, 20 minutes ago, almost near the beginning of the video, I would honestly have to say that it seems like for now, with all the evidence being shown, it seems like at first the FTC had no idea what they were doing, but now it seems possible that they may actually be willing to listen to what we have to say. So with that, as I said earlier, they have made a deadline for comments on this matter to be until December 9th of this year. So with that being said, it's now on us this time. We gave it to the FTC, and now they're giving us time to tell them how we feel about it and what changes need to be made. At this point, we have a couple of days until, or not a couple of days, a couple of weeks until the deadline is over. So I say at this point now, we make our voices heard. With this being said, I think YouTube is kind of showing us how they view it, but I don't know if they're showing it how the FTC would view it. So with that said, at this point there's two things I would say. It would either be fight it, which we will. I know we YouTubers will fight this to the very end. Or if it does not change a damn thing, the closest thing we could do is go to other sites that the FTC have at this point either know of, but haven't caught anything they've done yet, or something of that matter. In other words, I would say there are two websites in my head that I would go to if things are not changed for the better. I would go to Twitch in regards to playing video games, and I would go to Dailymotion in regards to videos that are not revolving around family friend, revolving around non-gaming content. That's how I would do it. Because right now they took off the Dailymotion thing off the PlayStation, so we can't stream on there. But this begs the question: what would happen now to content creators? What would happen now? Well, right now the FTC is willing to listen, as I said before. So now it's on us. Let's see what happens. But I say we stand up and we fight this till the very end. And we will see where we go from here. If there are any updates that I know of, I will make a video about it. Because this is just as important to a big channel. A very well-known channel. Very big channel with many, many, many subscribers. As well as channels that have little, if any, subscribers. But yet have videos on their channel. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for me. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. I wouldn't mind hearing what you guys have to say about what I've discussed in this video in the comments down below. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, ladies and gentlemen, this is Freaky Forest 9 signing off.